We're back with another series when we discuss the potential for certain players going into 2025 and what their role looks like. And the one we're going to talk about today is Jack Crisp, who has been a godsend for Collingwood since he has arrived to the Pies in that a part of that trade where he was made to be known as the steak knives in that deal, that Dane Beams trade way back in 2014. He's an A-grade Mr. Fix-It in the same sort of cut from the same cloth as Hoskin Elliott, but a little bit better, if we're being honest. He's played absolutely everywhere for the Pies over the course of the years, whether it's on the wing, in the midfield, in the half back line, even forward. And what did 2024 look like for Jack Crisp? Well, he started off the year slow, much like the rest of the team, but so much so for Crisp that it got to a point where he was listed as a sub against the Lions. So we lost opening round, round one, round two, where his pressure and his reluctancy to pick up the ball from the ground was very evident and very problematic and really hindering the side on an individual level. So he gets a smack on the wrist, or so it seemed if he wasn't carrying an injury, to be the sub against Brisbane, his old side, in that Easter clash, which was a must-win for the Pies. And yeah, it was indicative of his performances leading into that game. He comes on as a sub halfway through that third and was one of our best players and was really integral to putting the nail in the coffin against the Lions in that second half. And then from there, we didn't see Crisp have any dramas. And while his games record was at risk, what's he at now? He's at 230 something, maybe even the 240s now, breaking records left, right, and centre. So he was able to maintain that after putting in a good shift as a sub against the Lions. From there, he really thrived as a full-time midfielder while Collingwood were dealing with injuries to DeGoey, Pendlebury, Tom Mitchell in that midfield, and just carried the side. And what did we went on a 10-11 game unbeaten streak, and Jack Crisp was a big reason for that. He averaged 26 disposals and a goal during that period. He also collected 27 coaches' votes. Just for reference, outside of those 6 games where he got those 27 coaches' votes, he only collected 3 in other games in total. So he just shows how much of a purple patch he had when he had the keys to the engine room. Also, in 3 of those games, he collected 10 tackles, which was a season high for all those games. So he didn't average more, or didn't collect more than 10 tackles in any other game besides those 3 games in that 6-game stretch. Also, in that time, we said he played a full-time midfield role. We didn't average less than 80% of centre bounce attendances. So it just goes to show how much midfield time he was given. And over the course of his career, that is far more than any other season or stretch in a year for Chris to play in midfield. From there, we returned from the bye, and naturally with DeGoey returning for a short period, with Pendlebury returning, his attendances in the midfield and his midfield time was significantly decreased. We saw games where he would average 40% midfield time. He would average 30% midfield time in that final game against the D's. And that was to do with Ed Allen, right? So I remember Crisp was moved to the wing. Quaynor was sent and redeployed back onto the half-back line, or that's where he was playing for the last few games. But we moved a lot of magnets to make sure that we could see Ed Allen in a full-time midfield role, and truly performed really well. And quite frankly, has given us some optimism for breakout type of players next year. And Ed Allen definitely fits that category of being a potential breakout player after seeing him dominate in that game against the Melbourne Demons, who had definitely checked out at that point, but it was still good to see. And it's just what Crisp does in those situations. He sacrifices his role for the betterment of the team. So he'll play in other positions, arguably not his best position, to ensure that other players are, I guess, getting the most out of what they're capable of doing for Collingwood. and that was a perfect example for Ed Allen. I don't think we speak about that enough. So that's a real testament to Crisp's character. Also in 2023, I'm painting the picture, we're getting there, we're going to ask the question, but in 2023 he averaged 30% midfield time, which was 25% less than this year, where he averaged 55% midfield time. And he created that blistering tandem role with Nick Dacos off the half-back line and ultimately won us that premiership. Just running off the half-back line, giving us great ball movement from the defensive half. And he also had a good intercept game. Intercept possessions, averaged, nearly an intercept mark per game, which he didn't do this year because he didn't play off the half-back line at all, really. And yeah, so let's go into my membership plug and then we'll ask the question. So as always, thank you for watching this video. If you want to become a member and support the channel, it's $5 a month and you will effectively get early access to a lot of my videos, like including this one. So if you want to get early access to videos, then that's your way in. Become a YouTube member for Pies Footy. But we'll get to the question, guys. So the question is, where will Jack Crisp play in 2025? We mentioned where he played in the final game against the D's to accommodate Ed Allen. He plays game 250 in our first game next year. And we look at the midfield for 2025, right? We have Tom Mitchell, if he's healthy and recovering, and he seems, by all reports, he's doing really well, and we hopefully see 15 plus games from Tom Mitchell in the midfield. I don't think he can play anywhere else in the side. We have Pendlebury, who we've had little murmurs about maybe a potential role change or a split between playing in the midfield and also playing off the half-back line as well, being that general defender who moves the ball really well. We probably won't see 2024 games from Pendlebury next year. I think part of the idea will be, ideally, we get that output from Pendlebury. We've got to keep in mind he's 37 next year. We've got Sidebottom, who found himself in the midfield late in the year, was top 5 in the Copeland Trophy, and he's been given that run-with role in the midfield, has done that against North Melbourne, he's done that against Melbourne, he did that against, who else did he do really well against? Sydney. So we'll probably see more Sidebottom in those centre bounce attendances. De Goey will be there. What his split is, we'll talk about that in a moment. Nick Dacos is an obvious one. Josh Dacos I've got in the mix. Will mainly play on the wing, of course, but I think there's opportunity for Josh Dacos to play in the midfield. Did I mention Perryman? Perryman might play that rotating role, midfield defence. Ed Allen, Sullivan, Ned Long, Finlay. Okay, so that's our midfield group. And then Crisp to be in that somehow, somewhere. But if we see Perryman or Ed Allen both thrown in the rotation of the mid, I think Crisp's best position outside of the midfield for 2025 would be that half-back flanker. That exact role that he played in 2023 to a T, but didn't play a single minute as the half-back flanker again for Collingwood in 2024, which is interesting. I wonder why we were so stubborn and reluctant to try that out. In a year where we struggled so much so to find someone to dance with John Noble, we ended up putting Josh Dacos back there. We tried Steele Sidebottom there as well. I'm surprised we didn't go back to trying Jack Crisp, especially when we had a fully healthy midfield group, right? So either it's the half-back line for Crisp or potentially on the wing, especially while we nurse Harvey Harrison through his ACL. Side is going to be deployed in the midfield. Lipinski played more as a forward in the second half of the year, so maybe that leaves some space for Crisp to play full-time wing. Do I think that's his best position? Probably not, but on a needs basis, maybe that's where he needs to play. I don't love Jack Crisp playing as a high half forward. I don't love that. And in an ideal world, I would like to see Crisp average 75% midfield time and give De Goey a chance to thrive in the forward line with a 50-50 split. We mentioned that in one of the most recent videos on Pies Footy. And I mean, it's a conflicting one. You want De Goey in the midfield because he's a clearance beast and makes your side so much better when he's in the midfield, but he just can't stay on the field. I mentioned he can't play a full season in the midfield. He played a full season in the midfield for the first time in 2023, and look how he bounced back. He struggled with groin injuries all across the season. The entirety of the season, he was playing hampered, okay? So that would be my ideal position for Jack Crisp, but I just don't know if that will happen, 75% midfield time. I'd love to see Ed Allen break out next year, and then we don't have to worry about Jack Crisp playing in the midfield. So therefore, I think ultimately his best position for his best performance on an individual level would be on the half-back flank. However, from a team element, it's probably going to be on the wing. And I would be a little bit sad if he plays in the forward line because he goes missing, and it's a thankless role, that high half forward role. You're just doing dog runs up and down the wing and applying pressure coming into stoppages around the ground. So those are my 2 cents there. It'll be interesting. We've got a side full of versatility. We've added to that with Perryman and Houston, who can play multiple roles across the 3/3 of the ground. So we'll see where it goes. I'm sure we'll try some things in the pre-season. We'll see some interesting positional shifts that we've mentioned, and we'll just go from there. Let me know what you guys think. Where do you think Jack Crisp's best position is on an individual level and from a team perspective as well? We'll go from there in the comment section. Go Pies.